Hi, my name is Ashish, and in this video we will see how to use an Azure App Service environment. An App Service environment is a deployment of Azure App Service into a subnet in a user's Azure virtual network. So we know it. We have created the external and the internal App Service environment, and we know that an ASE, that is the App Service environment, consists of front-end, workers, database, storage. Your storage would use to host the published apps. Database would store the information that defines the environment. Workers, the resources that host the apps that are configured inside an ASE. And front end is the place where HTTP or HTTPS terminates in an app service environment. So we know how to create an app service environment. Now let me tell you how this scaling would work. So let me quickly log on to the portal and take it from there. This is the app service environment. So every app service app runs in an app service plan. App service environment hold app service plans, and app service plans hold the app. So if I go to here under the app service plan section of my app service environment, you would see that there are no app service plans and there are no apps here. Okay, now if I go to home and create a new app, I click on web app, click on create. I would select the resource group in which I have my app service environment. I would name it. We can go with any language. I would go with Python. I would go with East US. But I'm there creating a new app service plan here, so I can go and change the size. Go with the dev test, right? So I'm going to change the size. And if you want to create this app in an app service environment, you have to go with isolated, right? And you would select this one. You click on apply. Now it gives you the app service environment option. If you would not select the isolated option, then it will not give you an option of the app service environment. You see, you're not getting an option to create an app in the app service environment. So click on change the size, click on isolated, select this, click on apply. You get this. You select the name of your app service environment name. So this we have internal virtual IP type. So your app service environment name is, let me log on and check. I'm going to switch the directory. This is the name. I'm going to copy it. Come here. Oh, it's going to create a new one inside the app. Okay. ILB2. Internal or external, it's your wish. Networking. Tags. If you create, so it will create it here. So how the scaling would work is when you will scale an app service plan, the needed infrastructure is added automatically. There is a time delay to scale operations while the infrastructure is being added, so you will have to wait till the time from the backend the infrastructure is being added into your app service plan. If you do several scale operations in sequence, the first infrastructure scale request is acted on and the others are queued. When the first scale operation finishes, the other infrastructure requests all operate together. And when the infrastructure is added, the app service plans are assigned as appropriate. So creating a new app service plan is itself a scale operation because it requests additional hardware from the Azure backend. In the multi-tenant app service, scaling is immediate because a pool of resources is readily available to support it. In an ASC, there is no such buffer, and resources are allocated based on need. So in an ASC, you can scale an app service plan up to 100 instances. An ASC can have up to 201 total instances across all the app service plans in that ASC. So right now, in the previous video, I had an internal ASC which is behind an internet load balancer, and in this I created an app service plan in an external ASC. So if I am gonna scale up my app service plan, and if I do multiple operations as I mentioned before, so the multiple requests will be queued and would be acted once the queued requests are being served. And when you talk about the IP addresses, so if I go to my internal ASC, which is this, and if you talk about the IP addresses, this one, so you see the internal load balance IP addresses. So app service can allocate a dedicated IP address to an app. This capability is available after you configure IP-based SSL in the Azure app service. Right, when you add a TSL SSL certificate in Azure app service. So in an ILB ASC, you can't add more IP addresses to be used for IP-based SSL. This is the only IP addresses that you will work on, which are provided to you by Azure backbone. These are the IP addresses. And within external ASC, we can configure IP-based SSL for the app in the same way as in the multi-tenant app service. So when you create an Azure app service or Azure web app without ASC, then you can it is same when you create an external ASC. We have internal and external ASC, and when you create it, you can do IP-based SSL. I will show you once the external ASC is configured. So there is always one spare address in the ASC up to 30 IP addresses. Each time we use one, another is added so that an address is always readily available. A time delay is required to allocate another IP address. That delay prevents adding IP addresses in quick succession. And when you talk about front-end scaling, so this is your front-end. Under settings, we have an option called front-end scale. So front-ends are added automatically based on the total number of ASP instances that are in your ASC. You can adjust the ratio to add front-ends more often or the size of the front-ends for an additional charge. So when you scale out your app service plans, workers are automatically added to support them. Every ASC is created with two front ends. The front ends automatically scale out at a rate of one front end for every set of 15 app service plan instances. So it says add a front end for every 15 ASP instances, app service plan instances. This ASP is app service plan instances. So I can change this value. I can say, okay, add front end for every 10 ASP instances. Right. So if we scale to a total of 30 instances, we have four front ends. So let's say I say add a front end for every 10 ASP instances, and if I increase my app service plan instances to 40, then I will have 4 front ends. And if the value remains to 15 and I would go for 30, then I will have 2 front ends. So the number of front ends that are allocated by default is good for a moderate load. We can lower the ratio to as little as 1 front end for every 5 instances. We can also change the size of the front ends. By default, they are single core like mentioned here. And if you want to 2 core 750 RAM, then you would charge this. And 4 core 14 GB RAM. So I'm doing it for a lab, so I will leave it to the by default value. So there is a charge for changing the ratio of the front end sizes. You can check Azure App Service pricing documentation for more details. Right? And when you go for app access, so in an external ASE, the domain suffix used for app creation is like the name I give. So if I go here, home, and check the deployments. Give me a minute. I click on here. Deployments. It is there. I'm going to check the status of the deployment. So this one. So I gave the name, this deployment name is test Azure web app. This one. So the name of this app service environment would be .external-ase.p.asc.azurewebsites.net. So in an ILB-AC, the domain suffix used for app creation is appserviceenvironment.net. So in external, there would be p.azurewebsites.net, and for internal, there would not be a p, it would be appserviceenvironment.net. And if the ASC is named ILB-ASC and we host an app called Contoso in that ASC, so we can reach the URLs as contoso.alb-asc.appserviceenvironment.net. So if I go to here and I check the overview. So this is my domain name, test Azure ASC alb.appserviceenvironment.net. So if I create, I host an app like Ashish. So I would access that app using ashish.test Azure ilb.appserviceenvironment.net. Right, and when you talk about DNS configuration, so when we use an external ASE, apps made in the ASE are registered with Azure DNS. There are no additional steps than in an external ASE for the apps to be publicly available, and with an ILB ASE, we must manage our own DNS. We can do this in our own DNS server or with Azure DNS private zones. So the DNS setting for the ASE default domain suffix do not restrict the apps to only being accessible by those names. We can set up custom domain name without any validation on the apps in an ILB ASE, right? So this is, let's stop this how to use an ASE part 1 here. So I'm going to make another video mentioning about storage logging, deletion and storage logging, then we'll proceed further. So let's conclude this video here till here, and then we'll continue to share more information in the part 2 of how to use an ASE. I hope you liked this video. If you have any queries, please mention them in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Have a good day.